So the last thing I want to do in the pigeon series is to move the pigeon a little bit in the picture, in its green space where I've moved it to so far. Now, if I've got the move tool selected, if I move at the moment, then not only does the pigeon come with me, but also the patch over where the pigeon was originally also moves with it, because that's all on this top layer. And the original pigeon is revealed. So I can't at the moment move the pigeon because the patch moves with it. So what I really want to do is have the pigeon on one layer and the patch on a different layer, and then I can move the two in, or I can move the pigeon independently. I don't ever really want the patch to move. So at the moment the new pigeon and the patch are on layer 1 here, and I will double click where it says layer 1 and rename it pigeon and patch. And it has this layer mask. What the layer mask was doing was just masking off a bit of the shadow that came with the head of the bird. I'm going to Alt mouse wheel to zoom in a little bit. And if I hold down Shift, I disable the layer mask, and it gets a black halo when I disable the layer mask. So I'm going to leave the layer mask enabled. It was holding down Shift while I clicked the layer mask that disabled it. And that's quite useful to be able to do, so Shift click the layer mask. However, now I've got rid of that halo, I don't need to keep the layer mask separately. I can apply it to the picture and that will just get rid of the halo forever. So I right click on the layer mask and I say apply layer mask, and that keeps what was in the layer mask but merges it really into the layer. So now the layer mask has gone, but I've still got the halo has been taken off the pigeon still. But I still have the problem, if I move the pigeon, the patch moves with me. So it's just undo that last move. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is duplicate this layer by going up to the layer menu, duplicate layer. Now, perhaps I should give this a sensible, well, let's go with that for now. Pigeon and patch copy, which it is. And so both of these layers have got both the pigeon and the patch. I'm going to turn off the bottom 2 layers. And in fact, let's turn off all the layers except for the top one. So the new one I've just created has got both of these, the pigeon and the patch. And if I just look at the layer below it, that's also got the pigeon and the patch. So these two top layers have got the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to, this new layer I created on top, let's work with that first. I'm going to rename that pigeon because I'm going to delete the patch off that. So I've just got this top layer that I'm working on. I've just got that visible, nothing else is visible, and I've got the white lines around it to show it's selected. Sometimes you can get into this sort of pickle where you are working on, or you've selected a layer that is not visible, and that gets very confusing and some tools don't work. So if you're doing this sort of thing, make sure that you are working, you've selected the layer that you can see. Okay, I'm going to take the eraser tool here. I'm going to keep things very simple. Here's the eraser tool in the toolbox. Let's just move this over so I can see the whole patch. And I'm applying it with a brush. I want quite a hard brush because it's going to overlap with the pigeon. I've got to do some fine work around there. This sort of size I think is all right for now. So I'm just dragging across here to take off the patch. Now I'm just clicking. Right. Okay, that's fine. That's good enough. It's not a great job, but it's quite good enough. So now that's my pigeon layer. And I've just clicked on my pigeon and patch layer. If we go back and click on the whole picture, I haven't changed anything. Here's my pigeon. And if I turn off my pigeon layer, nothing happens yet because both of them are still on the pigeon and patch layer. Let's turn that off and you'll see they're both still on the pigeon and patch layer. However, what I want to do now is change this layer, and I'm going to rename it by double clicking and calling it patch. And I'm going to take the pigeon off. Well, I have already taken the pigeon off, haven't I? Because the pigeon is on the top layer. And so I'm going to delete it off this, this layer just again by erasing it. So now I've got the patch on the patch layer. I've got the pigeon on the pigeon layer. When I have both of those on, I have the pigeon and the patch. And now when I have my background copy on, I've just got my original picture again. So that looks no different from how it looked before. But what it does mean, if I choose the move tool and make sure I'm clicked on the pigeon layer, I can now move the pigeon independently of the patch. So if I do Control 0, Command 0, and work out, I don't need even to be on clicked on the pigeon. I can just hold down anywhere so my arrow's not a distraction. And I can move it sort of where I want to. It's jumping a little bit, and I can fix that on the View menu with this snap. I'm going to turn off snap. I don't want it snapping. I want to have free range of where I move it to. So now I do have that. So let's see, where does it look good? I've got that shadow in the way. I'm not sure I want it overlapping that shadow, but anyway, I'm being very, very fussy here. Let's try having it down there, which is probably pretty similar to where it was before. Okay, that's fine. So now I've got my layered file. I want to save it. I could save it as a PSD file if I think I may come back and reposition the pigeon, which I may well. So Photoshop wants to save it as a PSD file. In fact, this is the same file I opened. Content aware move, pigeon move. So that's fine. I can just save it. If I was really happy with this and I thought I'd never want to move the pigeon, this is now I'm going to have it printed or whatever, I could change the format to a JPEG, and that would flatten the layers. But because I might come back and move the pigeon, I will just save it as a PSD file. I do want to replace the one I had before. The one I had before was the one with the pigeon and the patch on the same layer. So I've improved things a bit by having them on different layers now. So I'll save it as it is. I'll overwrite that previous one, and I'm happy with that.